Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as I spoke about before, I've already created my design. I designed a Victorian-inspired era tuxedo for one of my favorite basketball players, Shaquille O'Neal. Now, I decided to outline it in pen. You don't have to, and I don't expect that of you. But I know that whatever you do with pen or pencil, when you take that picture of it, that picture is going to be possibly gray, may have some like schmutz or stuff in around it. It also might even come up on the computer sideways or upside down. So to get started on this, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Image, Transform, and I'm going to go to Rotate, in this case, I think 90 degrees counterclockwise. And that's going to get my Shaq drawing going the right way. As always, Control minus will zoom out, Control plus will zoom in. I've got them facing the right way. I'm going to go then to my crop tool. Crop tool should be the fourth one down. And click on that. I'm going to click and drag and make a little box around them. Once I've created that little box, I can readjust that box to fit properly. But really what I'm doing is I'm basically deciding whatever's inside that box is what I want to keep. And I want to get rid of everything that's outside of the box. So like all this extra stuff over here and this extra space over here is not necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and make my crop tool box the size I want it to. And then all I have to do is hit enter or return, whatever's on your keyboard. I've already gotten rid of that kind of space. Now I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and then Levels. And we did levels before. So I'm going to take this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that top graph. The graph should look like a little mountain range. Underneath that, there's a black, a gray, and a white. There's another set of this underneath here. We don't want the one on the bottom. That's not going to do what we want it to do. We want the ones on top. I'm going to slide the white over until my character looks nice and bright. And I've gotten rid of some of that other garbage. Let's zoom in a little bit. And I did it in pen, so he looks pretty sharp, but I can always go in and slide the black over here and make it a little darker. If you did this in pencil, you're going to have to go to this side and drag the black bar over a little bit. Once you have it looking the way you want to look and it looks nice and clean, we'll go ahead and hit OK. All right. I've got my Shaquille O'Neal. All right, now it's time for painting. As always, I don't want you to paint on the background. I go ahead and lock this. And that little padlock there, that way I can't accidentally paint on it. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. And I could start anywhere I want, but I'll start with the skin tone. I'll hit skin. I'll just rename that by double clicking on the actual word. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my color picker. I will slide towards the orange. And the orange should give me a nice variety of colors that I could do. Shaq's pretty dark. I'll go with something like that. And then I'll go ahead and switch my brush tool. I'll get a brush at 100% hardness. I'll adjust the size as necessary. The opacity should be at 100. The flow should be at 100. All these numbers up top. 100 for the hardness, 100 for the opacity, 100 for the flow. That should have been automatically there on your picture. And then I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to start sort of painting them up. Now, as I'm painting, you'll notice that I'm covering up my drawing. And what I have to do to make sure I can see my drawing underneath is I go to that layer that I created, that layer called Skin. And again, Skin is separate and selected over the background. And where it says normal on the layer options, I'm going to click that drop down and switch the option to multiply. And I'm going to go ahead and now I can see right through to my drawing. I'm going to go ahead and start painting my boy Shaq. And again, we've done a bunch of this. What I'm doing right now, should literally just be a review for you. And if it isn't a review for you, you got a lot of work to do. If it is a review for you, that's great. Go ahead and paint them up. And I'll do a bad job up here by the hat, and I'll show you how to fix that. Oops, I went out of the out of the picture. This is where I can go ahead and grab my eraser tool, adjust the size of the eraser, make it a little bit bigger, and then I could use the eraser tool to just clean up the spots that I missed. Alright, and I'm going to look, I've got a little bit more skin to cover, so I'll do that. And I'll do a little bit of his outfit, Control Z to undo, and then I'm going to leave you guys basically to work. So got the head. Maybe I want to kind of the eye there. I'm going to go down with a nice tiny. There we go. Okay. I'm going to hit the brush tool again, and let's see. I got hands to worry about. I'm going to do all the skin on one layer. Easier for me to do it on one layer. Easy to change it later on if I don't like a color or I want to swap a color out. If we have all that color on one layer, that's a very easy thing to do, and some of you may have seen how to do that in one of my earlier videos. But my feeling is that don't paint everything on one layer. Learn how to use layers. Even if you never do something like this with Photoshop again, knowing and understanding how layers work gives you legitimately a job skill. You know, people get money. They get paid to edit photos, to airbrush things and like that, and simply just knowing how layers work is a real life actual skill. So make sure you're working with other layers. I'm going to go ahead and paint the rest of his hand. Slightly bigger brush to cover a little more space. Again, you can see sometimes I'm a little sloppy with my work because I know I can just come back with the eraser tool and clean things up. Eraser, and I'm going to do a little bit of the clothing, and I'll stop this video, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue to work on it throughout the period. So, and I think I'm going to have him with no socks as well. Alright, and shack. I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to call this layer, let's go with vest. Alright, and I think that I want to make this vest something sort of lavender, a little deep. And I'm going to go ahead and get in there and start painting. Oops, paintbrush. And you can see when I start painting, I need to go back to the layer and change from normal to multiply. When you change it to multiply, you'll see all your color go right through. I'll do the vest, and then I'm going to add a pattern to this design. And then I'm going to leave you guys to work. And go ahead and do this relatively quickly. And let's just say I decided that I wanted to, let's just say that instead of having the vest be purple, I decided that I wanted the vest to be a pattern. And I decided that I wanted to change that up. Now, again, this is something that we've done before, so this, again, should just be a review for you. But to add a pattern, I think the easiest way to do it is to actually paint what you want to sub out. And it doesn't matter what color you paint it, as long as you have it be a different color from everything else. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and find a pattern. Luckily enough, I already found one, and I think I want to use that pattern for his vest. So I'm going to go ahead, and since I already opened this in Photopea, I'm going to go ahead and hit Control A to select all, Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to go to my project and hit Control V to paste it. Now that might come out like a really, really big picture that covers up everything on your photo, or could come out really, really tiny. Either way, we're going to want to resize this. We'll go to Edit, Transform, and then we'll go to Scale. And now by clicking in the corners over here, what I can do is I can resize and reshape my pattern. And in this case, I really just want the pattern to be big enough to cover his vest. I'm going to kind of move it off and make it a little bit smaller. Alright, so when I have it where I want it, I'm going to hit Enter. You'll know you did that correctly because those little boxes that were all the way around this have disappeared. Now you can see that pattern is popped up on a separate layer. I can hit the eyeball. And I just want to make sure that I have good coverage with that and that it's covering up all of the vest. I'm going to go ahead, after I've placed that pattern where I want it to be, I'm going to click that eyeball and make it disappear. Now I'm going to go up to the Select option. And I'm going to hit Select, Color Range. And when I have the color range, I'm going to get that window, move it to the side, and literally I'm going to click right on the color that I want to use. And what you see happens is, you should see then, if you clicked on that color is the only thing you see in white on this side. If I clicked on the color of his face, that would happen just for his face. But here what I want to do is I want to do it for all the, and I'm clicking on the actual picture of where I colored already. And you can see that option right there. Then I'm going to hit Enter or Return. If I did this correctly when I go in there, you should see that that one thing should be selected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the vest layer, I'm going to go back to layer 1, which is my pattern. I can always go in, and as I see how it lines up, I can move my pattern around. But I think I like it where it is. And now what I'm going to do, select it on this layer, I'm going to hit Control C to copy, and then Control V to paste. Now it should look like nothing happened, but a new layer popped up. That's layer 2. I go back to layer 1 and I hit that eyeball. What you should see is you should see basically the pattern that you selected inside and replaced over the vest. I'm going to go ahead and rename these layers so I know, and just call this one the plaid pattern, just in case I decide I want to use it somewhere else later on. And I'm going to call this one pattern, or I'll call it plaid vest. I like to give my layers specific names so I don't get confused. From here, I'm just going to keep on creating layers and painting in other parts. So in this case, I think I'm going to do the bow tie. And I'm going to grab my color picker. I can find a color for it, or I can literally steal a color from my plaid pattern, and I think I'm going to steal a color. Let's see what that looks like. Grab my paintbrush. Make my paintbrush a little bit bigger. Control Z to undo stuff. And I go ahead and make that multiply. And see, do I like that as far as my style goes? Yeah, I think I do actually. I'm going to go ahead and keep on working on my project. But once again, as a reminder, I'm not doing anything that hasn't been done before in this course. All this video was right now should have been just a little bit of a refresher for some of you. But I'm going to work now, and I'll work through the rest of today on getting my character painted up. And again, I want you guys to remember, you're going to get a lot of time to work on this in class. We need to be finished pretty much by the end of next week. Go ahead and save this as a PSD as always, so I can come back tomorrow and work on it. And that'll take us to the end of this demo.